Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rocket Lasso Live. This is episode 4 of season 6. And man, time flies. Things are going crazy. We've got people starting to show up in the chat on Twitch and on YouTube. Last week, we had some trouble where Twitch didn't want to begin. So I switched from, it says recommended, let it automatically connect, but that never worked. So now I've done the hard-coded stream key version and it automatically worked. So that's a big plus, and I'll keep it going like that from now on. But let's not wait too long because we have a special first-time guest today. And let me click the correct one. Here we go. We have Andy Needham as a guest. Welcome, man. Thanks for coming.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? Good to be here. Excited to hang out. And yeah, let's see what we can do today.
Yes. Yeah. Very excited. So I'm going to let Andy talk to you a little bit about his background and show off any links or anything he's got handy. But before that, just so you know, in the chat, we're going to be focused a little bit today on particle stuff, the new particle system in Cinema, maybe some new features in general. But if you've got any links or questions, start typing them out in the chat. Remember, if you want to link to something, then you're going to have to do it on Twitch. YouTube doesn't allow links. On YouTube, though, I like to type out questions. It's always really fun. I tend to alternate back and forth. If you are linking to somebody's thing, I'd have to be able to see the studio or the artist who made it. If I can't give credit to the name, we are not going to be addressing it. And let's see what else. Oh, yeah. And if we don't tackle your question right away, feel free to post it again a little bit later. So that should cover that. But yeah, Andy, do you have any links or anything you want to show off? Should I switch to your desktop?
Yeah, I guess. Let me just go.
Yeah, I'm switching over to your screen. Okay, so everybody can see and hear you now.
Looks like I've dragged this on. Oh, there we go. Good old tabs. Yeah, that should be a tab. No worries. I'll come back to it. Yeah, my name's Andy Needham. I'm a senior freelance motion designer based in London. Hopefully, if you were interested in some particle stuff, you might have caught one of my X-Particles challenges that I did back in the day. They were really quite fun to do, and we had a lot of amazing entries. You can click into my Instagram profile on here just to see the archive of that, or I think the website still exists, like even here. This was quite fun, but yeah, there's like all the past show reels and things like that and who won it and all that stuff. So that's quite fun. I've got a background in like kind of working with particles and training and things like that. I did a lot of training on LinkedIn Learning, still doing some actually. We're updating some courses this year. But I had a fun time of doing a whole like XP course back in the day when it was relatively new. So maybe you've caught that. But yeah, I've got a few links to share. I'm currently learning ZBrush along with all these other bits and bobs. So there's some stuff like that on my Instagram at the moment. And I'm going to be starting up my own YouTube channel, thanks to the people that have subscribed so far. Yeah, these are some really old tutorials from 8 years, 9 years ago, whatever. But yeah, there's some fresh ones coming up because there's so much content to do with the new particles in Cinema 4D. Looking forward to be getting into that for sure. And I had the pleasure of presenting at NAB this year and covered some particle stuff there. So I covered these three things mainly in a bit more detail. And yeah, so the presentations are now up on Maxon's YouTube channel. And there's one from Chris there as well, I believe. Yep. But you can see on the right-hand side, all these amazing artists were there, and it was great to hang out with them and be in their company. Yeah, Casey did some stuff on particles too. Yeah, and of course, yeah, you can see Chris's stuff there. So check it out. It might be of interest. And the other thing to check out coming up, I'm going to be on demystifying post-production, I think it's with Noseman, nice. And that's coming up in the next 11 days or so. So we're going to be, again, talking about this particle system. So it should be a lot of fun. Yeah. All right.
Have you been on the Maxon streams before?
I haven't. This will be the first one.
Oh, so it's a good time. It's fun.
A couple of firsts. Yeah. Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah. and I've known Thanasis for ages. So yeah,
Yeah.
if it's with him or Jonas, yeah, it'll be cool. It might be both. So yeah,
Oh, excellent.
yeah,
Okay, jumping
yeah.
us back to our videos here. So we got some stuff starting to come in on the chat. Like I said, we're going to try and stay focused a little bit on particles. Obviously, these are early days still, learning all the new cool stuff, and we've barely begun to scratch the surface. And I put links to all of Andy's things in both of the chats. So make sure you click on there, subscribe to his YouTube channel so that, by the end of the stream, we could like double your subscriber count because Andy makes good stuff.
Oh,
So
that'd
make
be
sure you follow
amazing.
him. Okay, so let's see. How can I reproduce? Okay, sorry, Demis. How can I make the reproduce to make new particles in regular time intervals? Oh, that's an interesting question. I think that'd be pretty straightforward. And then, did you have a follow up? Can we use the inheritance infector to move particles from one surface to another? Okay, those are unrelated questions from the same person. So yeah, we can jump into
These
that one. Reproducing particles. So yeah, I guess you've got some existing particles. Each of those particles is going to birth new particles, but those should be bursting at regular intervals. So, do you have a thought on how to tackle that?
So I'm just catching up. I was trying to find where the stream was. So, but so these are on YouTube. Are these comments on YouTube?
Yeah, those ones I just listed are a reproduce particle,
All right.
being able to like spit out at regular intervals of some sort.
The, the reproduce doesn't have a pulse mode.
Exactly. That's what makes it interesting.
That's the trickiness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, the two things that jump to mind that we could try and tackle.
I guess time condition.
Yeah, a time condition, potentially alternating between two
Yep.
groups using time conditions, which is always like the ultimate hack. When in doubt, when things don't work, switch it to a different group that makes it behave differently. And we'll be able to show some of these off. Your video is lagging a little bit, but I'm going to reset it here on my end. So you might blink out for a second. So let me hit apply. Okay, and it's good to disappear for a second, and now it should be synced up again.
Okay.
Cool. Yep, it is. Yeah, it did that before when we were practicing. Anyway, yeah, did you want to try and steer this one, or should I?
Yeah, you kick it off, buddy. I'll learn from the master.
Okay, so I got to scoot the laptop over. What's cool, as I mentioned last week, I've got the laptop piping into my tower. So yeah, you're now seeing a completely different computer. So even if I horribly crash the machine, the stream will not die. Okay, so let me go to my particle layout that I've made. That was custom built in because for some reason, Maxon did not make a particle layout, even though I feel like more than almost anything else, it's super justified. So yeah, let's start out super basic. Yeah, and Andy, feel free to interrupt like at any moment. Now I have built myself, I almost never do this, but I have been building myself a couple of presets, which can be pretty handy. Like I made this spherical rainbow, which will create a single burst of particles that will just live there. And I also have a different preset where it does the same thing, but as a patterned circle. So I tend not to do that type of thing. But this time, actually, I'll just start from scratch again. We'll make a basic emitter, and I'll go back to circle. Actually, let's make a mesh emitter just because let's be different. Keep it simple. I'll just make a cube, create a mesh emitter. If you have the cube selected, it's automatically fed inside. Visually hide the cube. The mesh emitter, I'll do a shot. We'll create 1,000 particles. I want them to be visually larger in the viewport, so I'll increase the size. And I don't think I want them traveling, so I'm going to give them a speed of 0. Color, just so they pop out. I'll make random, load in a preset, go down to one of my custom gradients. Let's make this kind of crazy neon rainbow one. If I hit play, then we should get a burst of particles that are just sitting there, hanging out, doing their own thing. Okay, so now we want to start reproducing particles. So that's another emitter type, and it's the most different. It's even so different, I wish that the reproduce was the 4th emitter, because basic mesh emitter and spline emitter, they're almost the exact same thing. I almost wish that we could like switch between them as like different modes, so you didn't have to like copy all the settings over. But yeah, reproduce is definitely the most different of them.
I've got something to talk about later on. So,
Oh, excellent. Don't forget. So I
all right, I
think,
won't.
yeah, I think if I have the particle group selected and I create a reproduce, actually, no, that's not the way it works. Yeah, so we got to reproduce. And right now, this is going to reproduce brand new particles from every particle in the scene, I think, including themselves, which can get a little bit dangerous. So the very, well, let's even see if we can show that. I'm going to go one frame forward and I'm going to kind of go carefully. And I don't think it's going to be too crazy. They were very careful in the mode that they set up. Yeah, you can see particles being born, but those particles will also start birthing particles, I think. So let's prove that by going into the reproduce, which is just brand new particles. And I'm going to say the direction is going to be random so they can fly out in all directions. So now if I hit play, you're going to see that this particle is now flying away. But I think if we watch it long enough that well, it's going to be pretty random, but I think that these particles we have could also spit out a particle. Let's give ourselves some more time here. And let's see if we get any new ones getting created anywhere. It's really hard to see, but we do have 1,000. Yep, yeah. Some of those you see them starting to spit out. So what I'm going to do is limit that and say I don't want that to be happening. I don't want this to reproduce particles from everywhere. I want them to only come from this particle group. And these are where the conditions come in, and they are amazing. I can drop the reproduce just as a child of this particle group, and now this can only execute on those particles. So I love the way this just works from a hierarchy. Now, let's make sure that we increase the size so we can see them. And just for fun, I'm going to say that they're going to take on a color inheritance. So I'm going to take on 100% of the color that they're being spawned from. So yeah, if it comes from a blue particle, it will spawn a blue particle. Now, here's my thought. I'm going to say so here's what they did smartly is when you first create this reproduce, it's saying to create a single particle, and it's probably a single particle per refresh or per frame, but it's set to distribute. So that means it's only making exactly one particle. So it can't get exponential. It's going to create one particle somewhere from one of these particles. It gets dangerous if you change this to per particle. Now, every single particle, every single refresh, actually only once right now, it's in mode once. So yeah, per particle constant now means every particle, every one of those original particles is going to spawn a new particle. So let's go one frame forward. And yeah, you can see everything just spawned another particle. If I go another frame forward, another particle. Now, it's probably safe to go for a few frames, but very quickly this is going to get like crazy. So I'm going to be really careful not to go too many frames in. So we'll make this more reasonable by giving them a lifetime. So right now they have a lifetime expectation of 0, which means infinity. But let's say that they only live for like really short, like 10 frames. So I think that's probably pretty safe. I mean, just to be extra safe, especially on the stream, I'll drop down the original particles to like 200. So now there's 200, and every frame is creating 200 new particles. So you see they're constantly getting created, flying out in all these different random directions. They're flying out pretty quick, just so we can see it really clearly. I'm going to lower the speed down. Yeah, now you can see each individual particle kind of spewing out other ones. So our entire goal right now is, can we get these to spit out in some sort of interval, some sort of pattern? Now, keep in mind, we got different controls here. So right now it's a count of 1, and I guess it's just on or off, but I'm pretty sure that we could drop this to 0. So you could just keyframe this to be like spinning them like, more or less on any given frame. Yeah, continuous is set right now. I think that all makes sense. Now I can't, there's not an easy way of telling it to be doing it or not doing it, but, it's still at 0. Okay. So yeah, now we got all those particles going. So now we start making conditions. So, we've got 3 different types of conditions: condition, field condition, and a time condition. Now, time condition feels like, I think a time condition actually is going to be really straightforward. We just make a time condition, and right now we could say only emit if you are greater than or equal to frame 30. So now if we drop the reproduce as a child of that, it has to be in that group and it has to be achieving this time condition. So now nothing should happen for 30 frames, and then suddenly they'll start emitting forever. So now, really straightforward, inside the time condition, we can say this should be a pulse, meaning it's going to start at frame 0. It's going to last for 1 second and then have a gap of 0. So instead, we're going to make it really straightforward. We'll say emit to have a duration of 10 and then a gap of 10. So this should now say be on for 10 frames, be off for 10 frames. Hit play. Let's see what we get. And there you go. Very simple interval just by using that time condition. And of course, you can change the both of them. So we can say an interval of 30. So now a bigger gap, burst, burst, burst. And yeah, with everything being a little bit more reasonable now, I could even go back into my count and say, okay, emit 5 per burst. And let's have them live for longer. 30 frames maybe, just make it look a little bit better. Boom, boom. Yeah, so yeah, time condition solves that one really easily. I forgot the time condition was going to work that way. I was actually going to do a field condition to do the looping. And let's see. I mean, there's other things to keep in mind. The time condition, there's a lot of the different conditions have this chance parameter. So we could lower the chance so that all of them won't always emit all the time. So if we make this a really small chance, let's do like 1%. You see that only some of them are emitting. And because I'd said, hey, when you emit, you have to emit 5 particles every time it's going to do a burst of 5 particles. But it's only going to happen during those individual frames, those 10 frames that they're active out of every 40. And now there's only a 1% chance that any given particle is going to be spitting it out. So yeah, even a lot of power just within a single time condition. Boom, boom. Yeah, pretty straightforward there. I'll give this file a save. Does anybody have any follow-up questions to this question specifically? Because if not, I want to hear what popped into your head, Andy, a minute ago.
Oh, that was something that you were talking about when you were saying about having to swap settings over from systems and things like that. I was getting frustrated with that, so I built my own tool to do that for me.
Oh yeah, so if you make a basic emitter and you want to do a mesh emitter, you've made a utility for that.
Yeah.
I'll switch over to you.
Yeah, exactly. I can. I'll find it. Let me just find it.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'll jump to our. Let me know when it's up, so I'll switch to your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll check out some chats while we're waiting. Hello, everybody. Welcome. If you have any questions, start getting them in the chat. We're kind of focused on particles, but it doesn't have 100% have to be particles. Yeah, wonder why there's no pulse and reproduce. Okay, switching back to Andy. And you're steering.
This is just, I'm steering it. Oh, wow. There's my screen. So yeah, this is just a thing that I set up for called property. I'm calling it particle property transfer, whatever. It's just so you can choose which ones you want to take from. You transfer one to the other, and then you end up with a link between the two. So if I change anything on the basic emitter here, you'll see that now there's a link here between that, and if I change the mode. We're now getting a shot here. Change the speed. That's not going to work because it's linked, so you have to go back to the one here. So, boom. But then the next time around, there we go. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to get this into some kind of working order. Let me just bring that back down to something manageable. But it's kind of cool because you could be like, oh yeah, I've got everything set up here, and actually no, I don't want a basic emitter anymore. I actually want everything on this, different object here. So I want a mesh emitter on here. So the thing to do would be to put in your source, put in your wait, I'm using the emitter here.
Yep.
Here, and then and then it should, if I had some different settings and stuff like that, then yeah, like I'm gonna change this to be, maybe I don't want any speed on here, Nice. And then now this is just linked like that. So a link between the two, choose which ones are on and off. It'll only do the ones. So these are kind of like, once you have these on, it's like they're locked. And then when they're off, they're free, you can freely move them around. So I'm going to get towards like the property maps and have some other functionality in here as well. But it's been quite fun just to do this one. So it's
an Expresso setup?
You might have guessed. No, it's Python. Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boom. Oh, Python. Yeah, Python tag. Yeah, I thought you might have had an Expresso. But yeah, I think everything you have there could have been done in Expresso. Maybe.
Probably.
Maybe it'd break if they weren't linked. Yeah, maybe you're right.
I quite like I just quite like doing stuff with Python. Actually, I think it's I get you've got the console and all that kind of stuff and the feedback, and when you're just trying to find something, let's clear this out. Like, what is this property? How do I find that? Just drag it
Yep.
in, and then you know that this is what you need to find. And if it's on the if you set it up correctly, you just name this little part to what the link should be. But yeah, and then it can give you like this will help you then dive into, oh, I need to learn about base time in the Python help. And that, these frames are slightly trickier because you need like the frames per second and things like that to actually get it to sync up. So there's a slightly different way of doing that compared to just dropping in this and going, oh yeah, it's a float value, So there's a few different things to discover and learn on those. But yeah, we're getting into something else here entirely. So, but yeah, it's quite fun to put this one in together, and I'll be, like I said, just get it into some better shape. Maybe you've got some ideas on how this could be a bit more user friendly or whatever. But
yeah, it's pretty cool though. I
yeah,
like it. Well, I
we
like
can talk
that.
off.
Here I am complaining. I'm complaining. It's like, oh yeah, like I really wish I could switch between modes, and clearly you felt the need for that as well, since you built a whole tool to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So,
Excellent. Let's jump back to the chat. What's that? Well, Dean was asking about the firework example and the 4-hour breakdown, which I never ended up making the fireworks in either form. I was planning on doing the fireworks at the NAB presentation, but I thought I was doing 2 presentations. It turned out I was only doing 1, so I never even got to that one.
yeah.
But that's one we could always fall back to, because fireworks is always a kind of a fun, open-ended thing you can do. And I've definitely recommended to people in the past. It's like, if you want to learn a particle system, like a go-to would be like, okay, make some fireworks, because a lot of freedom, a lot of control, and it's going to end up touching a lot of parts of the particle system, by the time you're done. Let's see.
For sure.
Michael, not particle related. Do you think we have some updated 2D dynamics workflows, considering the new connectors we have? I wouldn't specifically say that we have new dynamic workflows. I guess maybe a workflow, because it can automatically interconnect a bunch of things, but that interconnection is very specific. Essentially, it has to be these very sort of linear connections, in the most kind of like straightforward mechanical way. So it doesn't do anything we couldn't already do. It just allows us to do it with new rigid bodies. So yeah, I don't know that there's much in the way of a 2D dynamics workflow that we couldn't already do. I mean, at one point I was going to put together a whole like 2D simulation like tutorial series, and I did a bunch of exploring, but I just never ended up recording it. Let's see. Do you use any Octane, Andy?
I mean, I used to. I used to use it all the time. And then, like, I'm on this this machine here is like a kind of Hackintosh. So I've got like some pretty decent AMD GPUs in here. And Octane for Mac just seems to love Apple Silicon. So on my laptop, I have it. But on this one, I just use Redshift all the time, or Arnold. So yeah, I'm mainly using Redshift actually, and that's usually the day-to-day. Arnold's kind of just for specific clients. Yeah. But is there an Octane related question?
They didn't ask the question. They just said they had a Octane related question, but it doesn't sound like either of us really spend much time in there. But with the
I mean, it could be asked, and if we can answer it, but
exactly, just put the question in. But the rig you have open here, I'm intrigued because if I'm analyzing what I'm seeing here, an interesting detail seems like each tendril each head particle almost seems to be seeking out another one of the trails, and then it's bouncing off of it when it achieves it.
Yeah, there's some like avoidance going on,
But
for
are they
sure.
intentional? Yeah,
So
no, they're definitely aiming for it though. So when they're born, they're
yeah,
aiming for another particle somehow. So that's
there's
intriguing.
yeah,
Oh yeah, there's some
yeah.
cool
We can just
bounces
step
going on
through it.
there. Yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Um, all right. Um, let's just see, because it gets kind of interesting once you start adding some other adding some flocking and stuff like that. That's when it looks quite fun. So let's just go with what are we doing? We have an initial shot particle, which is going here. I need this group. All right. So this is what's happening to begin with. I'm getting a particle, and then I want to create like the beginning of the trail. So we need the front, which I've called a head. And what we're doing, the way to control how many particles there are is I'm putting it under a condition, and I'm saying, if the age is less than 5 frames, then keep spawning. So if I wanted more than 5 particles, then I would just increase this value. Which is it going? Is it playing through? Go on. Oh, and the reason why they're stuck on top of each other is because, yeah, they're just born there. Like, so we need some flocking. This is just kind of helping it move off. And then I've got this other condition to set up the trail, which is just which I'm gonna move it into this group in a second. But you can see here, like if I just adjust this to like 15, go back, you can now see this is how we're going to control the number of particles. So it's all done from here.
Is that
I
because
always do
the
over that
head
because
is
then
that the head emitting a single particle per frame?
it is a particle that then, yeah, then we're kind of
Yeah,
doing a
distributing one per
distributing a particle,
frame
but it's,
continuous. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. And then we're going into this new group, which let's just see. So we're going into this group. So we're getting trails, which look kind of fun. And then I'm using the data mapper to adjust the radius so that I get like a nice pointy tip,
Yeah, they grow into their
like
final
so.
size.
Yeah, they grow into the. You just phrase it better, Chris. There you go. And then we can color map that just for fun, make it look nice. So this is just color mapping over their age. So when they're really young, we're getting the lighter color, and the aged ones are this darker blue. And then I'm using a time condition to pulse the branch.
Well, the exact same thing we
So
just
I'm
answered the question
saying
about.
that's why I said time condition.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we have we're starting at frame 100. We're only pulsing like one particle. So I only want like this one branch, but then and there's a very small chance along the trail of whether this will be, because if you increase the chance, they could be all over the trail. You end up with too many branches. So and then there's a gap of 25 frames. So then if we enable that and the group, then we'll start to see. Oh, we'll start to see. Yeah, but they don't have any trails yet. So these are the branched particles, right, that are coming off.
Okay.
They have some turbulence going kind of randomly here. And I am also saying if this age is greater than 1, then create the trail from that. So I want them to be a trail immediately. Let me just do this. I should just do that and then do that. Right, I'm holding down Control or Command, and then that can do them all at once. So we'll do that, and then we get our trails. These are the branched trails. See, that's nice, the way it comes off here. And again, there's another chance of it happening. So let's colorize. Let's do the same thing. I'm really just rinse and repeating with the systems. We have a data mapper for the radius. Where's that? And then we have nice different color mapper here, so we can identify that as a branch. And then again, let's just make another branch off of this first one. So we're going deeper, and then we'll add another group. And again, it's the same kind of fun stuff. So again, that's going to then immediately, once you've created a second branch, I want you to make another trail. And you can see that we're just going in and into this. So another trail is created. Again, same radius options, data mapping, different colors this time. And I think I stopped there. I didn't bother with, it's set up to go for branch 3, but we'll leave it there. So this is kind of enough, and it was a bit messy. So I'm thinking, so they're going to go off. We're going to get branch here. There's another branch, and then we could go again and again and again. Now the collision stuff's all happening with predator-prey things. So if the age is greater than five frames, because I want that initial burst to happen without any interruption, then do all these different predator-prey things. So because we've got things set up in groups, let's just fold these back. We have another one up here. The key ones are the head, the trail, the branch trail, the branch 2, the branch 2 trail. So I've handily kind of named these just to stay on track. So it's all the same kind of deal, with just a slight adjustment. But I'm just saying, I want you to, let's just turn it on so we can see what's actually happening. So I want you to, here you go. It's going to push out from there. It's like you can seek out this thing, but then avoid it, and this is what kind of creates the bouncing that's happening here. So this one would be like a branch to branch trail to branch. So as one is fleeing, and the other one is kind of pursuing, and I don't have anything. And then to get like a little gap in the thing, I'm saying kill the trail. So kill that part of the trail, that particle, and that's where you're born from. Otherwise, we'd end up with some different sort of overlappings. But it's kind of interesting. I thought you can clearly see where that branch then comes from if you kill that initial particle, and it's just sort of more obvious. You can, yeah. So, but then this is interesting in itself. And
well, before you move on, I got a couple questions about what you've got going on right now, because the predator prey stuff, I thought they could only pursue something if it was within a certain radius, but it seems to be beelining even with a very small radius, unless it's a very tiny scene.
Unless it's what?
Unless the scene scale is very, very small. You see, the pursuit radius is only 1. So wouldn't they ignore all the other branches unless they got incredibly close to it?
Yeah, I mean, I've just found I'm mixing in the trail, the first trail again as a predator, I guess, a lot, here, and then the branch trail. And these are just, I mean, I hope it's not a bug, because it was just a fun kind of thing. But
I fully don't understand why it's behaving this way.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'll keep it if it's looking kind of interesting like this, because they're just this one, they kind of get stuck, and there's times when they'll just get stuck and kind of almost like they're going to give up, and then they just find their way through to a new path,
But how are they choosing a target? I don't understand.
Yeah, this was the most interesting. Maybe we need to turn some off just to figure this out. So, right, we have the head is running away. The head.
Could you make this a default? Could you make a default sphere just so I can see what your scene scale is? Or cube? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we're at a very reasonable size. So I mean, we're talking ranges of, you know, like 10, 50 units here, you know, but you have
Yeah.
a search radius of 2, which is really tiny. Like it's
Yes.
pretty much the size of the
Yeah.
radius. So how is it seeking out directly another branch?
Um, 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 I think it's the turbulence that's just kind of pushing them around, and it's just by chance that they're like,
It's not chance. They're
I
beelining
wonder
for
if it's
each other.
that. Yeah, this one's going after.
Like every time it gets near another branch, it perfectly intersects. Like they should be kind of missing, unless there's is there an optical is there an optical illusion here? Is it two dimensional?
Oh, it's two-dimensional, dude. Yes. I'm
Oh,
sorry, I
that
should
could
have said
make
at the
a
very beginning. We
big
have,
difference.
oh, dude, yeah,
Okay.
this makes a whole load of difference. Yeah, yeah, we're locking down the position Y, so we
Oh,
are
that
we are completely flat. Yeah,
okay. That
let's turn it
okay.
off and just see.
Okay, okay. Now I understand. Now it's almost entirely avoidance. I thought that these were randomly somehow choosing a target somewhere and beelining for it, but instead they're just going their natural direction via turbulence, and they're intersecting because it was two
Yes.
dimensional. Because right now, visually, it
Yeah.
that looks three
Yeah.
dimensional right now. It does not look 2D until you
Yeah.
spin the
Right.
camera. All
So
right, all
yeah,
right. That
we
helps
break the
explain it.
illusion when we add all of this on. Yeah, it's incredible. Just by locking down a dimension, like the kinds of effects that you can achieve, and especially the sort of um the like more kind of cell-like ones, that are so kind of pleasing. But then yeah, and in that sort of sense, like we've got flock, which happens here,
Oh,
and
I love
then I
flock.
like this because we're generating these things here, and then you'll still get the head and the trail, but you can see them like, and then the branches are like this. But I thought, okay, this is pretty, and they're expanding out and doing their own thing, and they'll still get like different. You can see the color coding. We're getting different branches and stuff, but it's obviously all being pushed apart by the flock. But yeah, let's add some rotation and some friction and some color mapping, and you end up with like this fun little like there's the trail, like off it goes, and you can see now, like just spin that trail around.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got lost. He's got lost. Um, but yeah, lots of fun with this one. Oh, they're going to get buried inside the
Oh, yeah.
main thing, but yeah, I mean, there you go, vortexy type thing, and then
Very
just
cool.
add some Y position. Oh, there it goes. There we go. Hello, microphone. Sorry about the sound if it's banging away. I'll just turn it down.
We'll give you a second. Yeah. Let's see. The chat went quiet, but
Uh,
they tend to get quiet when they're seeing something that they're really into. So, as we kind of wrap up this one, does anybody have any follow up questions or effects to play off of this one? So I'll give everybody a chance to do that. Yeah, I love making things two dimensional. It's such a good way to like have a beyond all the cool effects that you can make directly from it. It's a really good test bed for like, oh, does this effect work? I can do this
mm,
cross section of it. Do it with like
yeah,
1/100th the particle count. Like, cool, proof of concept. Now make it three dimensional.
absolutely. Yeah, it's like I think maybe you told me or whatever. Like it's like working with a field force or something. You can't see all that noise. You need to get it on 2D, and then it works. It's just so much easier to visualize what's going on. So
Yeah, I love doing that. Okay, somebody has a rendering question. We'll get to that in a second. I just want to spend a second and brainstorm. Can you think of any way to do the effect of what I thought was happening? Is there any way that a particle could be trying to target like let's just say on a given frame, a particle, when particles in a particular group are like, I am now changing my direction to target a particular particle. Is that even a thing
You would need,
in any way?
I don't know, you would need the, would you need the ID of a particle for that? Like you can't, it's wrong, but you could get an ID of a, with the formula maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, thoughts that pop into my head aren't even ID based. It would be more like say a condition says if frame equals 50,
Oh,
then like a single particle would switch to a different group or something, and then in that same time that it switched
yeah.
to a group, a
Oh yeah.
different particle is being told to like have a really big pursuit radius. It will now see the only particle that exists, so it shouldn't take a long time to calculate because there'd only be one particle to even look at. So it doesn't matter how big your radius is, there's only one particle, so it's not a giant list of arrays that it's trying to go through. And then it would be like, okay, cool, I am now pursuing the only particle that was available at that time. That one particle, which for one single frame was in that other group, could jump back to where it originally was. And now that particle that we said pursue is now on a beeline course to where that one was. That would be a way of doing it. It wouldn't be the exact effect you're describing or that you have here, because it would, yeah, right now you've got a lot of turbulence, so it's constantly retargeting again. Well, it's not retargeting. The weird version in my head that I thought you had would be constantly like moving around. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a curious thing though.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
particles
And
is so
like,
dangerous.
yeah.
It's so dangerous because you can make a rig and just want to like stare at it and play it. And it's like, wait a minute, I just let it play through like 2,000 frames and I haven't changed the parameter because I'm just having fun looking at it.
Some kind of brain scan. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, these are awesome. Are we getting a question? Oh,
Yeah,
Andy.
yeah. So it was just a question about how would you go about rendering this type of thing. Um, they were saying specifically an outer transplant material with like subsurface scattering or an emissive material. But yeah, if you were like, without any of the specific priming, if you were to try and take that real, bring it into an actual render, how would you go about actually making it real?
Sorry, making this render?
Yeah, yeah. What would be your approach? And
Oh yeah.
obviously there's different approaches in different circumstances, but just as an example, what would be maybe a way you'd pursue making this one render?
Yeah, I mean, outer translucent. Yeah, it might be interesting. I mean, oops. I guess oh, who does this by the way? Like has a set of like go-to nodes, you know, you can just then copy and paste and
Yeah,
do all your stuff here.
I like they're already collapsed.
Yeah, right. I guess I mean, let's just see what they look like. Let's just see what they look like to begin with. So you don't necessarily need a Redshift object tag on these straight away. They kind of have, I guess, like a hidden one set to optimized spheres. So that's what we're getting right now. And yeah, so we can change all of that, of course. So I guess we'd need to decide, how would we group this up? Well, now we can start putting RS objects on. So these are going to be fairly dull because, oh yeah, yeah. So I can try and isolate a few bits here just by debugging this a little bit. So that's the bits I want. Mainly the trails, I guess. Yeah, they look. So we can get the color data from the particle just by coming into, you've got our color user data. I keep mine, all my ones to hand in a little scaffold here. But just double click and user. I just type user and then I can grab any of these. So we get the color user data and drop that into, I guess we'll try emission for now and just set this to 1. And I need an attribute. So I need the color of the particle. And let's just see. There we go. So we have some bright looking particles here. Maybe we just disable some of the others while we're working on them. Like that. And then we can just come back to them as needs be. Gosh, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. So it might be nice just to take off the emission that I have here. And, you know, you could get, what did someone say, subsurface? We can drop that in, put some weight on here. But I need some kind of lighting in here to really set that up nicely. And you know, I guess
would subsurface would subsurface visually do much when we're in a two-dimensional world? Like if these were blobbing together in like a big sphere, obviously there starts being some subsurface type depth. But if they're two-dimensional, is it giving you anything you wouldn't just get from some emission?
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get too much benefit from this. I would say it would be interesting to I'll have to dig it out. Maybe it's one for the YouTube channel, but I have a setup for like you know, mapping like the color to change materials and things like that. So that's something that could be quite fun. Let's turn this off.
Like some sort of
material, nice
or yeah, sorry, I didn't fully follow what you meant there. When you say switch materials, how do you mean?
I'll see if I can find it. It might be in an old version.
Or you're talking about like what, I forget what they call it, but like the standard or the material blender. Is that the type of thing you're talking about? Like using some sort of like
yeah, I guess so. Or you could say like get the age of the particle or something like that to change color. Maybe we can, maybe that. But yeah, we're getting it kind of with the color mapper anyway. That's how we've set it up. So we're getting that already with this particle color. So
yeah,
there's but yeah, like using that value as a mask for something else, you know, to, yeah, I guess you could do that with if we're just doing that, and if we had like a kind of, let's just get rid of some of this stuff because we didn't need it. Like if this was a gold material, maybe. Yep. Actually, we're going to need some. I'm going to stick to just just some basic colors, I think, because I can't be bothered to set up some lights. So let's just say we've got one, and then like another one. Let me just twirl this down a bit. With this, imagine that would be like water or something, and then this would we do blender or layer? Base color. Yeah, you can kind of blend between those, like, but this could be, imagine, yeah, let's just do it. Like see-through material to something else. That could be quite fun just to see how that transitions over their age.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so that is technically done over the age, even though we're just using the color because, but
how
yeah,
is it done,
I mean,
over the age?
Because the color mapper is working over the age, isn't it? Sorry, and I think this is the main one that I've got going on. So it's on over the edge. Yeah.
But along those
Um,
lines, wouldn't it be spitting out a rainbow? Like when I think of these matte or this blender for the mask, wouldn't it be expecting an alpha image like white to black, and not like all these
oh
what
yeah,
would be
yeah. But I,
translated to grayscale tones?
oh yeah, yeah. Truth. Yeah. But yeah, I guess we're, yeah.
Oh, well, that's I'm why I was thrown off is that I thought maybe it was directly piping the age through because you were getting a very nice transition from one to the other, but it could have just been like
Mm,
the color. But yeah, the contrast was working pretty well there. But yeah, when you take those rainbow gradients and then you remove the hue, usually the values are like up and down. Um, not a smooth gradient of grayscale.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Going into different
the
territory here.
yeah, a limiting factor right
Mm,
now is that
yeah.
we've only got the information we've got. So it's like, yeah, we have a color
Yep.
channel, but you can only ever have one color channel. Where in the future, I have no idea what's coming down the pipeline, but I'd love if we could arbitrarily be like, hey, I want to create color channel 2, and when I'm controlling the property, I'm now saying, hey, I control color 2, so I could have like all sorts of different gradients. I'd be mapping the radius to one gradient. I'd be mapping the age to a different gradient, a secondary age on something else. Right now, I think our best trick is that you can use color, and then you can also use the alpha channel. In theory, I guess if you were mapping the color in Redshift and not directly on the particle, you could do RGB and alpha. So you'd kind of have 4 different channels to be 4 different black to white gradients that you could use to store information. But yeah, anyway, that's where my head's at.
Hmm. Where's your head at? uh, yeah. So yeah. What else?
Well, somebody,
What
this is kind of
else?
backtracking a little bit, but would it be possible for you to maybe from scratch show off how you made that nice little shelf with all the simple um, nodes for your baseline material? Somebody's asking how you made that from scratch.
Yes, and we can convert it into an asset as well. So you can then reuse it in every single file. Let's do it. I'd be more than happy to. So let's just go and create a new standard material for Redshift. And then what do you want this material to, what are your go-tos? Like I'm always going, like I don't need to see like this 12 down or whatever. Like I don't know if it respects that, but I do want like maybe my emission color
Absolutely.
accessible, right?
Yeah.
So I hold down Control or Command and you click on the circle here, and this will allow you to now put something in there, right? Which is cool. And you can do that for other properties. Like if you wanted your weight here, and then if you had a value, you could always, we don't need a thumbnail for that. Thank you. But we do want to see this. So we could always like pop that in here, and then you don't have to dive into this and scroll down through everything. You can just do your values right here. So yeah, that's a way of kind of controlling the weight. The color, then you can put in whatever you want. And same for these others. So expose the nodes that you want to have set up, or expose the properties that you want to have set up.
Yeah.
So we could also add a bump map here. So we're already good to go. Connect that right up, and then you just have to put your input in. Let me just do that for now, and this for now. So what I'm doing is just clicking on the little burger menu here, and this cycles between what's more visible. So then I like to set up some displacement. Can be a tricky one depending on what you're working with. I don't know, with megascans, for example, you might have like 0.5 and 0.5 as your range, minus 0.5 to 0.5. That's what it gets mapped to. And then you may want to have some additional, options for the scale, unless you're, I guess, doing it on the tag itself or whatever. But, you can set these things up and have that as a as a default, right? And this looks a bit kind of messy. So let's just hold down Control or, oh no, it's not that. It's Control and Command and Control. Command. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to say Command Shift, but you might do it as a Control Shift on a PC. Create a rerouter, a wire rerouter, or a dot node, and then you can just neaten up your node trees like so. So now the fun bit of picking out a few nodes that we like to use. What do you like to use, Chris?
Vertex attribute, a ramp, and a color user data.
So we got ramp, color. Oh, it's just type user. You get this so much faster.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. We don't need to see all of these. We can just pop this down like so. And then organize them the way you want. Whatever makes sense to you. You can highlight them all, press L, and that could also put them onto a nice little grid like so. Yeah, we're going to, well, I won't do the shortcut because you can see it here. So you can create a new, it's actually Alt-G, I think, because it'll automatically create a scaffold in the newer versions of Cinema 4D. So, oh no, that creates a group.
That's the group. It's weird. I didn't know you could make groups in the Redshift, because that's something we do make groups all the time when we're actually using scene nodes, but I didn't know you could do it in the material.
Yeah, you can. Alt-Shift. Wait, what is it? It's not group. Alt-G. Command-G? Control or Command-G, guys. Then we have a scaffold, which is my, fave. I'm going to do something that you won't like. Favorite.
I like the British U in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I just add extra letters and things, through and things like that. Yeah. But yeah, these are my favorite nodes. Then I'll just, have them off to the side here. And that could be it, right? Maybe we want to just pop this open, because the state that you save this in is going to be how it appears when you use it again. So we can take this and you can name it whatever. You could even, if you're using like red all the time as or orange or whatever as your favorite color. And my favorite's kind of a bluey. Let's go like that. Like maybe, I don't know, get in the weeds here. But it could be this, right? As whatever you want to set up. And then let's open up the asset browser, and we're going to drag it over, drop it here, and we have a save asset property, little pop-up window here. So this could be my material, whatever you want to call it. And your version. This is version 1. Where do you want to save it? I'm going to save it to, I have my own database that
highly recommend people do that. Make your own database. You can link all your different versions of Cinema to that database.
Yes. So don't save it here, because this is only available to this Cinema 4D scene file. You could save it to your preferences, but it is only available to this version of Cinema 4D, the preferences, or save it to your own database. And then you can take that wherever you want. You can connect that to another version of Cinema 4D or share it with somebody. So we'll drop it in here. And if you want to categorize it, we could put it into like materials, choose OK. It's now going to be categorized like so, and then choose OK, right? So it's dropped into here, and my material is now here. It's got a Redshift icon, and I can use this whenever I like. And it looks like this whenever I open it up. The other thing I like to do is if we just you can see here in my layout, I've got my material that I have here. So then I have that set up just like so. We're going to right click. We're going to choose to customize palettes. It goes a bit funny, but this is just like the command manager saying, hey, do you want to make a shortcut? Do you want to do something else? You can add icon separators, and that's what these things are. Or you can drag an asset in, and we can drop this next to it. Close this down, stops us from editing anything else. And then we can just choose window customization and save your layout. Save as the startup layout, so this happens every single time, or just choose your own custom layout. So I'm not going to do it because I don't want to really save that right now. But this would then appear next time I load up my layout. So yeah, to prove the point, like I'll click on startup here, and you can see it's shifted over now to my startup layout. I kind of like to have the asset browser open just in case there's something there. Yeah, and there's also these this material here. So you were talking about grouping stuff, and I mentioned that in my NAB presentation about like if there's a particular setup for, it's back onto, let's just particles. If we press play and fire out a few particles, we can choose to display them. It might be more fun. Well, let's just do it. Let's choose to display them as the vertex, the velocity direction, right? And this is more fun when there's some actual change of direction. So we'll add some turbulence, crank it up, and you can see we get these really pretty like particles. I think they look quite fun. So there, when we add loads, it looks great. But does Redshift render this? No, it doesn't. This is a display only thing, right? What a shame.
Yeah.
What a shame. But we can access this, no problem. All right, so we'll make a new material. I'm just going to make a really simple one so we don't have all the other stuff here. So, and we've got this to the side here. So we want to get some user data. We need vector user data, and we want, from the particle presets, the velocity. So this on its own, if we pipe it into, oh, come on. This is where I should have my other material, shouldn't I? Who wants to do this all the time? Nobody. All right, let's just go like this. Put this in here. Now, does this need to, does it need to be applied to the particle group, Andy? Yeah.
No.
All right. And there we go. Right. Doesn't look like this. This is too strong, too intense. So what we need to do with these vectors is normalize them. So we can use that node. We can normalize them here. Drop this on top. And this is giving us something, but it's not exactly right. And I'll be honest, Basti told me this. You need to have a color absolute in here. And this will actually give you
negative,
the color. Yeah, right. So we need, this will give us what we see here. And then this is like a nice little setup that you can reuse over and again. So why not group it? Okay, Alt G, create group nodes, name it particle velocity, velocity direction, right? Velocity direction. Okay, assets, convert to asset. This is velocity direction. Let's save it in my whole thing here. It's part of the nodes. Choose OK. Get rid of it. Double click. Velocity direction. We have it ready to go whenever we need it. We can just chuck it into the color, and there we are. You can save a lot of time by using the asset browser and creating whole setups, whole forces that you love, even as we've seen, particle setups. If you come into the asset browser, you search for particles. Daya has put in loads of work to get like all these amazing like little things here that just are great for kicking off your learning of particles for sure. So yeah, it's just create them and drag them in.
Yeah, absolutely. Highly recommend it. I tend to get obsessed with keeping everything 100% vanilla because most of the time I'm doing this type of thing. I'm showing people, I'm doing a tutorial or a live stream. So I don't want to be like, oh, here's my magical node that does the colors. Like I'd have to rebuild it again from scratch anyway. But even with the new particle stuff, I've even found myself being like, I always love my triple turbulence, where you make a large turbulence, a medium turbulence, and a small turbulence. It's like, well, okay, I'm going to make a preset for that. So I can just drag it in. Along those lines, do you it doesn't have to be particle specific, but in the way that you've made your material more handy, where the 6 things that you're grabbing most often, you just created a little scaffold to have them stored in there. Do you have other things that you just find yourself reaching for it so often that you're like, wait, I'm going to make a custom version of this to save my time? Like, what are the ones you feel like you click most often?
You mean like in terms of nodes
Kind of
or
anything.
anything?
Like, it's even obviously it's not going to be, but like, it's like, oh, I always put a bevel on a cube, so I made my default bevel cube. But are there entire little rigs
Yeah,
or particle
no.
setups or anything?
I think I did it for. Oh, didn't I save it? Oh man, I'm sure I saved it. I'm okay. I did something for displacement, like
That
with
would make sense. That immediately
redshift or
popped into my
whatever.
head.
Yeah, like I don't want this on at
Yeah.
all. And like, you can reduce that down to two. And then if displacement needs to be set up. But if there's a normal map, you can turn off this if you're using normal map because you don't want to double up your bump mapping if you already have it. So if you're already doing bump, then you don't need auto bump mapping. And so turn this off and have this as a save it as a preset. But the reason why I've turned this screen space adaptive off is just I was doing a render and it's a really long, super wide, whatever. With it on with every move of the camera, everything is being the tessellations and stuff is being calculated again on every single frame. So I was ending up with like a frame that was like 5 minutes per frame, and I was like, this is crazy. What's going on? And thankfully, at the time, a forum that I'm part of, there was a discussion on displacement and tessellation and things like that, and I was like, these people are way smarter than me. They know more, so I'm gonna listen to what they have to say. Let's turn this off, and it went boom straight down to 40 seconds per frame. So it was insane the difference, and I because it saved a weekend of rendering. So yeah, I kind of tend to set it up in a certain way, and then save it out as a preset and just stick it into your own database.
Yeah.
And seriously, like, yeah, this is there to be you got to use it. There's so much stuff here that's handy. Like I have this color finder that I have here, just by giving me the values here, so I can, like with particles, you don't have like the color chooser and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, what's that value then? I'll have to find the RGB, and then yeah, this just allows me to then right click, copy, and what would it be in? It would be in a math, probably. Math, color, RGB, paste, done. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Then now we know that we are going to get that color.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. So yeah, most of my little tools and things have been based around particles, and I'll be happy to going back to like the YouTube channel, I guess. I'm going to cover a bit of retiming and things like that, and you'll see a little hint to this setup here that's going to help us out to do it in a bit more of an art directable way. Like when you're caching with particles currently, like you can't. Yeah, you could use the spline graph and stuff like that, but you kind of may want to have the curves in the timeline, and you don't get curves by keyframing the frame value. You don't get that, so you need it's a classic setup, but I just wanted to cover it off in the new particles, and it's yeah, something that I've got pretty much good to share. I just need to tweak a few bits, and I'll be putting it on the channel. But yeah, have you been? I don't know. Is there any other questions? Because I'd love to
Yeah, people start
answer a
getting
little bit
those
more. But
questions going again. Let's see. Is there a way to transfer? Blah blah blah. Oh, there's an Unreal question. I don't think that's any of our area of specialty. Um,
Unreal, I wish it was. I love
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah. If I could snap my fingers and be like, okay, I know how to use it now. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of hours to get into that properly. I mean, that's a full time job, is being good at Unreal. Andy, you
Yes.
made a comment about the brain scanny look, or maybe biological. If biological, then there would be two
Yeah.
particle systems. Oh,
Are we getting
so
Are we getting
Bihavana are
technical?
well, maybe he's going back to that translate, like the translucent shell type of thing. But is the idea here, Bihavana, that you're talking about like putting a membrane on the outermost particles? And is it now a question of building a rig where the particles that are like on the outermost area are going to be different somehow, that we could then isolate them and texture them differently? I'm not entirely sure I follow the question.
You could, I mean, you could say like once they get to a certain point, then do go into a different group or something. Field condition could do that quite easily, or
Yeah.
something like that, or just say by age or whatever. Yeah.
Well, what pops in my head would be, would there be, I don't think we have this, we don't have access to this data. Maybe we could trick it with a vertex map. But what pops in my head is like, if you are working two dimensionally, every particle, because it can push away, the most particles it could have directly around it would be six, kind of the classic hexagon around a single circle. Um, so, would there be a way for us to know? Essentially, I want to map. Let's say we want to map a grayscale value onto a particle, depending on how many particles are around it. So it's like it would be black if zero particles were within a certain radius, and it would be white if there's up to six particles in the radius around it. But I'm not immediately thinking of a way that we could get that data, because if in the blobby kind of like galaxy spin that you had going, everything on the inside would be crammed with
Hmm.
particles, but the ones on the outside would only have like three particles it was touching. And then maybe you could kind of fake finding out that there's a shell on that. But I'm trying to think of any way of getting that data.
Uh, Oop. Are you working on something?
Actually, I'm trying to figure out how to mute Slack because I'm getting messages that might be going through the stream. I can never remember how to tell Slack to mute notifications for.
Oh, you should be good because you're on my screen. So,
Yeah, but my audio still pipes
yeah.
through.
Oh, I haven't heard any like boop boops or whatever it is. So, hey, Mikhail. Do, do, do.
Oh,
So,
there it is. Pause notifications for 2 hours. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, all these particles are really crammed
I mean,
in by neighbors. So how could we know? Like, how could we know arbitrarily that one of the particles is on the outer perimeter?
hmm. Mm,
And yeah. See, that's why I was like, I don't want to pursue this method, but I was thinking it's like, well, if you have a flat plane with a highly subdivided, a highly subdivided plane, and you put a vertex map on, the vertex map could be taking on the colors, and if they're on the edge, and then we transfer that information back again with a field condition. That's messy. I don't like that. It'd be very slow.
yeah.
I guess it's kind of the same line, but it'd be a little more automatic. Like we could put this all into a volume builder. Um, and then maybe smooth the volume builder, and now a field condition could detect if it was inside or outside of the volume builder. So that's kind of a way of shrinking it. um, and what else could you do? How could they know their neighbors count?
Oh, neighbors count.
Well, as a, like I said, an arbitrary, even right now, you see your swirl is not a perfect circle. So we couldn't just put like a spline or something
No,
around it
it's
because it's a blob shape. And that's
yeah.
part of the point here. It's like, okay, so you have an arbitrary blobby shape. How can we know what the perimeter is? Um, and then again, yeah, a lot, my head keeps going to using the volume builder because that creates a mesh, and then via that mesh we could do things like I could use, like, if we made that mesh, I could then feed that into a Racket Lasso slicer. We could make a single cross section slice, and
Do
then
you
you would get a perfect spline outline of the whole thing, and then we could get data easily from that spline. But that's a
do you
fairly
want the file?
yeah, if you want to plop it over. But what I'm describing would be a
Yeah,
fairly
you can.
intensive version. Like I'm trying to think of like,
Oh, okay.
I, I'm trying to think of a condition. Well, here I can swap to my screen just for a second and show a basic version. Um, boop.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, here's a super quick version of it. I guess I can make new scene file, basic emitter. I'm even gonna go to my preset quickly. So it's a 2-dimensional flat blob, and how would I want? I guess I'll just make a flock. So if we hit play, you see we're going to get boop, and I'll tell this to display 2 so we can see it. And I'll put let's do a math node, flatten it on Z, so position constantly equaling 0 on Z, assign it, and then maybe a turbulence just to have them drift. And I'll say that's all we need for this test. So we just do something like that. I guess I'll throw some friction in so the turbulence doesn't go out of control. Okay, so now hit play. Now, those drifted quite quickly. Let me make a way larger turbulence there. Okay, even if I just stop somewhere like there. So it's like, oh, how can we find outer perimeters here? So my thought went to, we make a volume builder. In the builder, I'll drop in our particles, put that into a mesher, and now we get kind of this blob. Now we could spend some time, we could really tweak the settings and dial this in, add more thickness. But now we do see, clearly there's an inside and outside. We have a perimeter. So now using Racket Lasso's plugin slicer, I can say, okay, I want to make a cut along the Z axis. I want to make a single cut, and it is going to cut what? Well, I want to link to this volume mesher. I can hide the volume mesher, and now you see that we've gotten this lovely outline on all the particles. So if we, we could go back into the volume builder and modify radiuses or blob it in, smooth it out. But yeah, now we get this radius. So based on that radius, and if I hit play, hopefully that could, yeah, you see it's actually animated. It looks pretty cool, actually. So if we took that, and I want to go pretty early on so we can actually see it. So if I did this, now we have a spline in which I could say, give me a field force. No, not field force. I want a, what do you call it? Oh, a field condition? Or is it a, oh yeah, it's a data mapper. No, it's not data mapper. I want to do a color mapper. There's so many different ways of combining the stuff these days. So we have a color mapper based on a field. The field will be the slicer as a spline object, which we can now set to be based on a radius. And I'm not sure how big the radius would need to be. And that's based on the color automatically. So we can go to our color remap, and it's based on the radius. So right now it's claiming to be green, so that's probably fine. So if we do a couple frames, okay, yeah. So you can now, we could set this to maybe add or modify the alpha or something. But now you can see that I have been able to turn these outermost particles green. And so if we were saying, oh, this is some sort of cell, then now we could colorize those in that way by doing this feedback loop where slicer is feeding the data back in again as a way of getting a perimeter. So that was just the idea I had.
I like it.
Sounds pretty fun. And of course, you got to put some flocking in there.
Yeah, you got it.
You got to put flocking in. No cohesion. A little cohesion's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Fuck. Double both of those. And why is that twirled down? A little more volume. I think my scene's very large, so I had to make even larger radiuses or radii. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool though. Yeah, look at
Mhm.
that. I like it. And yeah, slicer. Well, we can go back to the original shape. And I guess the thickness is, it is what it is, but we could do all your standard volume builder stuff where we could add in a dilate and a road. And we could start shrinking that down a little bit. And as I shrink this down, like that's my radius is also shrinking down as well to make that kind of as tight as we can. I mean, if we add it, if we increase our resolution, obviously that's going to improve our ability to add extra tiny detail there. But hide that again. Now you see we have an even tighter, more accurate spline around the radius. And yeah, kind of a cool look there. That's definitely something I could see exploring a little bit. Like even if you hide the end result of these, having this final spline blob, it's pretty cool. Yeah, really organic. I dig it. Okay. Well, anyway, that was my thoughts. Um, let's see. Any other question? We still got almost 40 minutes, everybody. So if you got more questions, jump on in because Annie and I always have example scene files and things we've tinkered around with. But I'd love to be answering people's direct questions. Have you seen any cool examples of anything using particles in general or the new particles that you're curious how it might have been made? This is your opportunity. Um, let's see. Ignacio was asking about rendering the additive particles. I did that as a like tiny or sparkling tiny lights and magic elements. But have you played with the additive rendering?
As in the tune.
Yeah, I think it's a tune trick. I mean, I had to look it up to see what setting actually allowed you to do it additively, but it really almost is like, oh, you turn on this checkbox in this mode, and now you get additive rendering. Is
Yeah, I have not done tune stuff. Like Redshift tune is stuff I want to get into, but yeah. So yeah, it's it's interesting though. Yeah, go for it. If you have a setup, I'm
I'd have
less
to.
interested to learn it.
Yeah, I'd honestly have to go and find my own scene file. So I'm going to keep this up on screen while I check if I've even got that. No. Yeah, I've been trying to get a little bit of that. I don't even know his computer. I don't think I actually saved it. So yeah, I'd have to look it up myself. Unless wait, do I have my particles 2 folder? Maybe I put it in here. Dry eyes, pyro drift, particle drift. Um, I'm pretty sure it's going to end up being a straightforward check. I'll put my screen back up again. I don't remember what the specific setting is, but let's just see if we pop open a uh, a new tune material. If we see the setting, um, opacity affects emission. I don't think it's in the output. I don't. Is it in the tone map? That'd be weird. Invert range, reflection. It's not in the contour. It's got to be in the tune material, right?
It's something to do. Let me just see if I can find. But yeah, it's on. Is it reflection stuff? I don't know.
That'd be.
Tune. Oh, additive.
Yeah, I somewhere there's a setting, and I don't know where the setting is, or it
Find
goes.
some.
Yeah, it has to do. I'm pretty sure it has to do with like the opacity opacity. It might actually just be this opacity affects emission, where if it becomes slightly transparent, then they can start seeing each other through each other. But like I said, I haven't tinkered with it enough to be confident in the setup.
Yes, me neither.
Well, rather than us, I don't like clunking around on like an aspect that I'm not familiar with on the stream. But we just had another question pop in from Braulius, and yeah, I would be curious about this too. So, Andy, because you were so big into XP, what would you say are the strengths of the new system compared to X particles, and what are things that you'd maybe still stick with X particles to be able to do in maybe your daily work?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you should really compare these two like directly, because X particles has had development and it's just such a bigger thing. So they have had the time. I keep dropping out, do I? Insidium have had the time to get XP to where it is, and it's a great tool. I think when you're reaching for, but that's not to say like these particles in Cinema 4D now, like for version 1 in particular, they're pretty awesome, I think. And also like the rate of development, when you think where they took pyro and cloth in such a short space of time, relatively speaking, they're on the right path anyway, for sure. And like when you need something really quick and you just don't want to, or you don't have an X particles license or whatever, and you just, I think for the most part you can get that the dust particles that you want in the scene, or just something even more, a little bit more complex to certain degrees. But there's you're not going to go to Cinema 4D if you need fluids or something like that, like the water sims and things like that. So yeah, I think give it some more time. But I think if it's probably closer to compare like not X particles, but like the Nexus stuff, maybe, because they have maybe, apart from constraints and fluids and things like that, they have fairly similar like modifiers, or what do they call them? Effective.
I am not
Yeah, they're
familiar with
modifiers,
Nexus.
aren't they? Yeah. Nexus is like the GPU version of X particles. So
Okay.
yeah, so you've got like turbulence and things like that, but with X particles, in some respects, like the way it works is, I guess you're more used to a certain modifier for doing scale or something like that, so it's kind of like, oh, it's all laid out for me there, I use a scale modifier to make them. Whereas with C4D particles, it's math, or straight up data mapping or something like that. So there's just a different kind of, well, definitely a different way of working, but also a different kind of lexicon as well, almost. It's all there, but it's like slightly different. So we're talking about like change the radius rather than change the scale. So which is all doing the same kind of stuff. But yeah, they have some flocking and things like that, and things like that. But I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going off track here, but I just think it's if you're familiar with X particles, I think picking up Cinema 4D particles would be fairly, once like the structure, the order, the hierarchical nature of it, and things like that, it's fairly straightforward to pick up. And you may find that some of the effects that you could create are probably could be faster to do there. So in C4D, and like I think we'll be exploring it more as it gets developed and stuff. But like the integration with like the rest of the simulation tools, that's pretty exciting, actually, to have it all unified now. And it's only now, it's like the foundations are kind of been laid for really exponential growth, I think, for where it's going to go. So
Yeah, that's
it's
definitely the
exciting.
part
I
I'm
think it's
super
not.
excited about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows where it goes? I was trying to get this additive
Yeah.
thing going, but I'm not having any luck. Oh, wait, I think I got it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah, someone's mentioned something about the particle groups and things like that. Yes, they are. It's kind of that once you wrap your head around, like, oh, it all now belongs to the group, and I just do things within that group. And, um, I had an example where I had tons and tons and tons of groups there, and I was ending up with like a Redshift object tag on. That's fine for control over each one of those. But if you just wanted to blanket render everything, you could just chuck it all in a multi-group and one tag and then one material and just, control a lot of things from there. And I also think, isn't it right? Like if something is in a multi-group, you can deform the particles as well. So
Yes,
they
I
even
only
work
found that
with,
out yesterday. If
yeah.
you want to,
So
here,
you
I'll
don't
switch
have
to
to,
your screen. Go and do a little demo of that.
yeah. So I believe I've got these in a multi-group and
Well, don't do the
like
multi-group. Do the failed version first.
trying to just
Yeah,
deform something here.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, we're not going to bend this, are we, today?
yeah. Those particles aren't
We
bending
can't.
anywhere.
They're not doing anything. But do they bend? Did they bend? Have I set it up wrong?
Oh no, well, wait, I don't think they're
So,
bending, but it's hard to tell. Well, it
yeah,
also
I
goes to like
think.
certain circumstances do make it so they do bend and others don't.
Yeah. Can I do? Oh man, I was hoping I could do correction. Oh, that would have been great. Just move them. Flying on the seat of our pants. Yes, I'm moving something, but they are just the points, right? So maybe I need to. Yeah, okay. Oh, is it because the math is taking?
Oh, I thought that the deformation should be behaving as purely a post effect. Like it no effect. It's not, those particles aren't really there. They've just been deformed to have the illusion of being there. But yeah,
Hmm,
multi groups
maybe
automatically in
maybe
their
I.
own way are caching the particles or bringing them over from the simulation engine for real.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I guess we're getting deformed points, but why are we not seeing?
Yeah, it's like the
You've probably got the answer,
radius.
Chris.
Well, I guess it goes to like those are the particles, and they would render properly. But you are displaying right now. Your particle groups are displaying the radius, the radii of all of the different particles, and it looks like
Oh
those
yeah,
those don't get deformed. The actual particle does. So I think this would render
yes,
correctly, but the radius doesn't deform.
yeah. Let's try just rendering it because you're right. These are these are like display things, I guess. We can turn those off and see. I've got my multi-group here. Let's just turn that material off. So we're having all of these have tags on and they're disabled, and we'll see if it works. Nope, doesn't like it. Oh, oh, wait, it does.
Yeah. No, yeah. I
They're not
assumed that that was
flat.
going to work. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yes, as a post effect, so kind of interesting to get that kind of strange feedback. But I guess if you're looking at it side by side, then that's the way to go with it. So anything that can deform points, the
Yeah.
points and stuff, then you should be good to go. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
which is
and
most
you're probably
things.
getting that
Um,
doubling effect because it's a weird thing where multi groups will display the particle, but their original particle group will also display the particle. So maybe visually hiding those would make it
so
a little cleaner. But yeah, you're still losing the color.
yeah,
But
yeah, which is slightly disappointing. and you didn't need that on by the looks of it.
But yeah, but they render correct.
Okay,
And at the end of the
well,
day, all that matters
let's
is
see
if
what
they
these.
render correctly.
They did. So we have this kind of weird lens type thing that you can play around with, and I think I mean, it could have gone a lot worse, couldn't it? So yeah, these are deforming nicely there. So there you go. After you've got it all simmed, just got it all simmed in 2D, just deform it.
Yeah. And then I think I heard a thing where if you go to your full on particle render settings or your particle scene settings, and then what was it supposed to be? Yeah. Well, it wasn't that. What was the checkbox? Go to particles, and then there's a setting. Yeah, right there. You see it says download particles auto. If you say on,
Oh, it needs
you
to be
don't.
on.
Yeah, I don't think you need the multi-group. You might be able to deform like the original particle group, but now it's always transferring the data from the simulation engine over to your computer. So, and as Phil pointed out
Yes.
in the chat, certain things in cinema are what's happening is we get a lot of speed enhancements via the GPU because cinema isn't doing the simulation. It's taking all the information, sending it to like a separate, almost like a little separate application, like the simulation engine. It's doing all the crazy math and simulation super quick and in parallel with all your processors, etc. And then it's passing back just the most minimal amount of information to have it display in the viewport. So that's where you get tons and tons of speed. But certain applications, like something like a multi-group, it's like no, I need the real information. Send me all the vectors and the spin and it's transferring all the information. So suddenly you're back in the CPU. It's transferring information back and forth from cinema. So you're going to get back. You're going to lose a lot of those speed optimizations. Nice, yeah.
This is pretty fun.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
During I don't want to steal their content, so I don't want to give them credit, but I was watching yesterday's stream from Maxon, the Ask a Trainer, and they were talking about this deformation. So I didn't realize the multi-group thing until they mentioned it yesterday. But also they did a cool thing where they used the camera deformer. And it's like, they could kind of squeeze. It's like, the particles aren't quite where I want. So they painted the camera deformer to be like, the particles should scoot over here just a little bit. So yeah, pretty cool, weird, unintuitive ways to use that.
That's awesome. He's super smart. Yeah. Yeah. So very cool. Very cool. I like that. But yeah, you're right. I think if everything is, but once you start using fields and stuff like that, they get downloaded anyway, right? The true speed is if you're doing just pyro and advection, because then it's not sent back. It's all on the GPU then, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, deforming particles, very powerful.
Yeah. If you start using anything classic Cinema 4D, like it's gonna be on the CPU back to the CPU.
Well, if you clone onto them, then it's like, we had to make them all real. But yeah, and then you don't want to be careful about turning that from auto to on, because now every single particle is transferring back and forth. So if you have a need for it, then definitely do it. But also it's the kind of thing, it's like, well, if you only need it at render time, then maybe turn it on and off as needed. I'm gonna switch back to my screen and then very quickly show the toon shading. Or you can use the new toon shader to get additive rendering on your particles. So let's do that bit from scratch. Okay, so anyway, I've got this lovely cluster of particles. I can hit play. We got some turbulences that are going to start twisting them around. Let's let them get a little bit wispy here. Okay, cool. So now, those are rendering as they normally would. Let's add on I don't think I even strictly need to, but let's add on the redshift rendering tag, tell the particles to render as point instances. So now they're back again. And now we create one of the new redshift toon materials. So with the toon material, I'll apply it immediately. It's going to kind of disappear. But now we don't need those tone maps. We'll delete those out. We don't need the contour. This contour is what's stopping it from rendering. So now suddenly it pops in. We need the color. So double click, search for the word user. Let's grab the particle color. And let's output. I don't want color. I don't want reflection. But I do want scroll those up. I do want this emission, so I'll set that to 1. Output the color channel, holding down Control or Command. Now I can drive that with a color. And now did all that work for it to look exactly like it used to look. But now we can go down to this opacity. And if we start lowering the opacity, you can see they're going to start becoming transparent. But the real magic comes in if you say the opacity affects emission. So if I turn that off, you suddenly see they all got a little bit brighter. Now, as we lower the opacity more and more, what's happening is we're kind of seeing through the particles, but their emission is not lowering with their like lowered opacity. So then you get these additive effects where I think if like a bunch of blue particles and yellow particles were on top of each other, you might start getting a green color. And once they go even further, you start seeing this white color start to emerge. So we're actually kind of like seeing through the particles here. So yeah, pretty cool that we can do some sort of additive rendering there just by turning off that checkbox. So
Nice.
yeah. I'll save that. I think we had a bunch of questions pop in like the last 10 minutes, so we can go and start reviewing a few of those. Additive particles.
Affectors.
Let's see. Let's see. We covered that one. Whimsical orb. Oh yeah, Phil was mentioning that there is a tutorial about the additive put up. I agree. Particle groups are easier to work with because you just drop objects into them. I found that very intuitive when I first opened them. Let's see. Did you see the global setting grid thing? Oh yeah, that we covered that. And let's see. Brad was saying, have you noticed that you can't bucket render with the new particle system if you attach dynamics to the particles? Oh, well, if it's a confirmed bug, it's a confirmed bug. Yeah. Okay, interesting. A little growing pain for the new system. I haven't, personally run into that, but good to know. Let's see. Cell rig. Demi asking, can we freeze a group of particles and make simple PSR translations in space? Or is it only possible? Oh, I think you covered that. I think that was the deformation question that you covered. And he was also asking if the formers influence particles, then the effectors in deformer mode can affect them too. Presumably, I haven't specifically tried. Do you still have your deformation file open?
I do. I was just having a look at that. It's kind of weird that you think they would, or like if we do plane.
Huh,
but
I didn't see it. It didn't jump as you clicked it.
No, it didn't. But if you put it in object mode,
that's strange.
It will jump.
What if you make instead of a plane? What if you make a random effector just so we can see if they fly off in all directions, or they? That is strange. So yeah, it's treating it as a singular group. That's strange.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah, that's. Yeah. So yeah, it's.
So they are not working.
Not working.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, it seems like the type of thing we should give Maxon a heads up on, or maybe if somebody from Maxon is lurking in the chat right now. There we go. We found a little limitation right now. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a workaround. I mean, I can think of technical workarounds, but not things I'd necessarily want to do. I mean, if you really wanted that, like presumably we could. Well, they are just points. Here's a weird thing. When in doubt, use a connect object. If you put your multi-group into a connect object, and now they're being treated purely as particle or as points, you have to turn off weld, or the points will disappear.
Let me just hide all this stuff.
Yeah,
again.
So now we just get those. So now, can we deform that connect with a random?
Ooh, we want to do it with like a random.
Oh, really? Still
Nope.
doesn't work. That's a shame.
It is. That is a shame.
I mean, not the biggest deal, but I would like them to be working. I mean, for the most part, I end up only using effectors as deformers if I want to deform points on a particular axis or if I want to randomize them. Or I guess that's not true. I also use them as a displacer. I almost never use displacer anymore. I just use a plane effector in point mode to act as a displacer.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tobias asked a question way back, and I'm not sure I have a good answer to it. But Tobias was asking if there would be any need for a Python node, which doesn't exist, but a Python node inside of scene nodes. So right now, yeah, I don't think there is any sort of Python node to write code in there. I mean, in theory, it's always useful to have the code variant of everything. Like personally, I've never used the Python field or the Python effector, but there's always, for advanced TD applications, like there's always potential that you'd want to be able to do something there. So I wouldn't say no to it, but I also still, it's something you'd be using less than 1% of the time type of thing.
Mm.
Oh, somebody was saying my YouTube link was wrong, but there's a bunch of people watching on YouTube right now, DOS. So maybe my posted link was wrong, but the stream is still live via YouTube. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, Demi's right. That was the other thing. The last way we could do that, instead of putting it into a connect, put it into a just clone
Just
or
put
put a
it.
matrix object. Which is actually
Say again.
that was used to be before I knew that the multi-group thing was a thing. That was my hack. Is you could make a matrix object, set it to clone onto every point, and that would force it to come onto the computer as real information. And the matrix is going to have to let us to do it. And the matrix does maintain
Yeah.
the colors, so that's a big plus. So yeah, that's got to be able to take
Yes.
a random now.
Well, yeah, it's just
Yay.
normal gear.
Yep.
Yeah, look at that. I like that we can do this with the matrix now. Just adjust that.
Oh, nice. I didn't notice that.
Oh, because
Yeah, but now we're getting it's losing the index.
Yeah.
Your point count is constantly changing, and I don't know if your particles die, but like you're constantly getting new ones, so the indexes are changing constantly, and therefore the random is based on the ID right now, so they're all just popping.
Ooh,
so you'd have to change.
That's a bit hard to watch.
Yeah, you'd have to change the random to like UV mode or something instead of index to get something semi. Yeah. Or one of the noise-based ones, and then that should do something. And if you change that to indexed, then I think, well, maybe that would it's going to start twitching again. Yeah, but yeah, set to UV, maybe. Yeah, if you make a tiny noise, I guess maybe it would kind of do something. But yeah.
Ooh. I mean, that's quite fun.
I was going to say that'd be something that'd be incredibly difficult to do, but with all the different modifiers we got now, like the math node on sine wave could probably do something like that. But yeah, so many layers. I mean, this is the wonder, but also the intimidating part of, because we've got all these unified systems where it's like, oh, we can create particles, which can talk to fields, which we can now clone onto and have it affected by pyro, and then use a vertex map to blend the colors. And it's like, oh my God, like it's unlimited. We can make anything we want now. We just have to think our way through it.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Like you're maybe thinking like Houdini terms, and it's all just there, and it's all kind of, you build on it and all that kind of stuff. Well, this isn't Houdini, but it's like, the same kind of building upon unified and systems that talk to each other. And I think they speak the same language. So
Yeah, and that's what
you're
we've
not
been missing.
fighting stuff these days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Every version that comes out in cinema, everything talks to each other better, which opens up so many opportunities. Like if I start thinking back like 4 years ago or even more, the amount of times where it's like, oh, we're trying to build a complex rig of some sort. And it's like, wait, we got to put the connect, but the connect has to be underneath a spline mask. The spline mask needs to be put into another connect, and then you remote link into it via an instance, and now it works. Like more and more, we don't have to do that. It usually just works in a pretty straightforward way, or in some fairly standard ways. Like here, it's like, okay, that wasn't working with a random effector, but we could just feed it into a matrix. So it wasn't like this crazy hierarchy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You didn't have to get the Python node out, We didn't have to do that
Exactly.
this time.
Yeah, that's
And there
cool.
you go. You've just got this kind of way more like some controllable motion on top of the chaos of the particles. So
Yeah,
yeah, quite
so
fun.
good. Do we have any final questions? We got about 10 minutes left, so we probably got time to answer one little question if somebody's got one. Um, Demi was saying, I just noticed in Andy's layout the matrix scatter. Um, he's asking what the difference between that matrix and a matrix object
Sorry,
is.
it's a matrix object with an RS object tag on. That is kind of it.
Is that something? Is that something you
Yeah.
made, or is that?
Because no, I think it's because I'm in Redshift. If I was
Oh
in
yeah, I've got one too.
standard, sorry, it would not appear. So because I am in Redshift, then certain things like
Oh, I
appear,
never noticed that one. Yeah.
that relate. So yeah, it's just got that on. So saving you a step. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it goes to what's
Um,
funny is like internally, or at least as far as code is concerned, we call everything that like is made by a cloner, we call it a clone, but the code calls it a particle. So I guess that setup is kind of like, well, okay, a matrix object is a color, a position, and a rotation. So along those lines, it's like, well, that's everything you need for particles. So that's probably just making it as like, yeah, you can use a matrix object, which isn't real, but if you throw on a redshift render tag, then suddenly you can render it like a particle.
yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
Twirl
Yeah.
asking a very good question, and I got to say, it's my number one request to Maxon right now, and that is, can we color the tracer trails based on the particle color? And sadly, you cannot. Right now, there's no way of transferring the color information to it, kind of on any level. And there's multiple levels. One, I'd love if the tracer, but I think the tracer object just needs an overhaul these days. Like it's pretty old. It's always had order of operations problems, and I think there's more it could do, but I think it now needs like an explode segments command, or a setting that can also take on the color of the particles, or they need to take on the ID of the particle so that Redshift could render them properly. So, and then on top of that, unfortunately, right now, so here's another major request I have is you can put vertex maps, and you can put parametric vertex maps and vertex color maps onto splines, but virtually nothing in cinema will respect that information. So like Redshift can read vertex maps, but not on a spline. So it's kind of like, right now you could be you could say, oh, I want to take on the color of the nearest particle and put on a spline via vertex color map, but Redshift can't see that vertex color map either. So I'd really like that. And I feel like it'd be a pretty straightforward thing for them to put in, but there are some clever workarounds, and maybe Andy's got one here.
Yeah, it's just kind of reproducing particles, isn't it? And then yeah, this was I was just you made me think, and I was like, oh, this was something I think I had in April, something like that. So let's see what we got. We have, well, this is the final result. Why have I got? Oh, I've what? Yeah, I was like, what? You open a file and you're like, what did I do there?
Why would you do
I
that?
was cloning onto cloning onto the particle group. So I wanted some clones at the end, which are bright particles. So these, as you can see, are just like streams of particles.
A ton of trails, or a ton of particles as a trail.
Yeah, we need that. So let's just see what these all do. So we're emitting, boom,
And they're
and they're
shifting colors.
flashing. They're shifting colors. Do I get that to repeat? Probably. Yeah, if you set this to repeat, it will do, once it's reached the end of its cycle, it will then just come back and give us this kind of flash, which is kind of fun. Then we're saying if the age is greater than or equal to 24 frames, assign a constant velocity of 0. Okay, so stop them at that point.
Wait, why are you stopping that?
Now, if it's less than, I don't know. I'm just figuring this out at the same time. So why did we do this? Maybe it was disabled when
I was going to say,
the,
I think that might have been
so I've
awful
got
for you.
Yeah, maybe it was. Like, but like I wanted to freeze them in position or something. So you get like some kind of crazy turbulence. And then from that, we're going to reproduce, and then you get the movement through the repeated color. That's why I did that.
Oh.
Let's just make it longer.
Are you colorizing?
You get the
them
visual
again?
movement.
Wait, how are you getting the? Why is it
No.
color? Wait, I don't understand this.
The reproduce is going into. Let me name these. Let me name these groups. Name everything, everybody, because the reproduce is going into group 2. Group 2, it must be inheriting.
But it only inherits the color. No, it's not inheriting. And the data mapper is off.
What the heck? This is at the root level. That's why it's not assigned to any particular group. It is to everything. So if it's outside of a group, it's global.
And it's looping through
as you well know, and it's
interesting. Okay,
so now if you drop
if you drop that particle mapper or the color mapper as a child of particle group 1, these will be static, right?
Yeah, we get.
You have to inherit the color. From
right. So we would exactly. So we need to be inside reproduce color, and then get 100% of the color from the group, but it doesn't do the fun stuff. So
well, this is now they are always going to the tail will maintain the color that it was at the moment it was born, is what this is now doing.
Oh, okay.
So there is utility.
It's gone all dark here because. Okay. Oh, let me just turn these lights on. There we go. My lighting system goes, it's late. Time to go. But yeah. So what do we got here? And finally, we're taking the radius down, I guess. Is that right? Over the age. No, they're bringing them. They're starting low and then bringing them up. No, they're going down. They're going from that to that. Okay. So we can see that there. They're getting thinner as they get older.
Interesting.
That's what's happening with this data mapping. Yeah. Well, that's fun. Yeah. And if we get rid of the kind of ugly torus, then, that's pretty interesting.
So the tracer cannot
but if you want
create color, but with enough particles, you can fake it.
And enough particles can also mean increasing substeps as well. So if this is at 1, we'll end up with like a load of gaps. So we need to pump that up, and then, you can go more, but it seems to fill in quite nicely. Maybe 6, boom. Oh yeah. All right. So I mean, I guess it depends on where you're rendering this from as well. This could be from here. Now wait.
Wait, did you do the toon
thing?
These? They look.
I think they did the toon thing. Maybe I did the toon thing. They do.
Is that toon material? No, it's standard.
It's not.
Oh, is it reflecting? No. Why does it? It's got like an iridescent or additive looking thing going on.
Nothing there.
don't
This is
understand
the
it.
fun of coming back to a file that it's just pumped up, man.
Yeah,
Like,
that's still.
oh yeah.
Are they
Boom.
transparent? Are they a little bit transparent? Or is that maybe doing it?
Oh,
No.
nope.
And the opacity looks
Alpha,
full.
no.
Bizarre.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
what?
I wasn't expecting the iridescence
Oh,
that you're getting, but
oh, oh. I think it's post effect, maybe.
oh, that could maybe explain
Uh,
it.
Um, where's the bloom? It's on. There you go. There you go. It's on. Let's turn the bloom off.
Still
Are
looks.
we looking at through a camera? Has the camera got some? No.
Oh, there you go.
Whoa.
There you go. Oh, okay. You had
It's
some
the
okay
depth of.
effects. Yeah. Even though it
There
still
you go.
feels like even
We
when you turn it
tracked it
off, I still
down.
feel like there's a little bit of iridescence going on. But it could just be like I don't know. It looks cool though. And I mean,
That's
they don't look
yeah.
like particles even from this distance. Like you have enough substeps.
It's kind of like a crazy iris or type
Oh yeah,
or eyeball going crazy.
the fun of going back to old
Yeah.
scene files.
So I mean, it's a mystery. I was like opening it, thinking, well, this is either going to crash or it's going to say the wrong version or whatever. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, at least it loaded. This is wow.
maybe
Lights are
maybe you
off.
don't need the tune shader to get the additive thing going because it sure as heck looks like
You
it's
just
additive.
pump it up enough.
Yeah,
You just pump up the
but
emission enough, and yeah,
with no transparency, I don't understand how that's
spit it.
working. But
Yeah,
I mean, it has to be in the material, I think. But I can't, like, with no
right.
transparency there, no
That's assigned to
reflection,
that. That's assigned to that.
no, you don't have subsurface, do you?
Wow. Okay, let's
I mean,
just
there's
go through
nothing.
it. Right.
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing there. Nothing there. Nothing there. Nope. No wait. And nothing else would.
Okay. Well, here.
Oh,
Okay.
coating. No.
Make a new redshift material, and then pipe in the color user data and see if it still looks this way. And then also, is there any chance
Okay.
that the
Cool.
particles themselves have some alpha?
Okay. Oh, is in emission, so we'll just
I
grab
think it
that.
is. Yeah.
Boop. Sorry, what?
Yeah, and you have a weight of
Maybe.
0. You have a
Yeah.
weight of 0 right now, and you might still have color on.
This is true.
I think that was up
And it's not
higher.
applied. It is applied.
It is applied, but I think do you still
Oh
have
yeah.
base color? You might still
Yeah.
have
I got it
reflection and
all.
base
I
color.
got it all on here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're back. Okay, so now this is
Okay.
standard, but now it doesn't look additive. So something's different. Oh wait, now it does look additive. Okay. But you are taking on the color user data. So is there any chance that your color mapper is applying some sort of alpha or some sort of value into the alpha channel? No, it doesn't look like it.
No. Well, no. Alpha
Right, well,
only. That would be.
maybe it's just an
Well,
optical illusion that the lighter colors. No, I don't. I don't know. It's weird.
because I mean, yeah. Is it just? I'm trying to zoom in on the wrong window here. Is it because there's just the volume of particles, and and they're just adding?
Well, that's the point. Is that
that's
I don't.
exactly what we're
These
saying,
are
isn't it?
not additive.
Yeah.
Like everything we got here.
No.
Like the point is supposed to be that you can only do additive with the tune trick, but now it feels like you got additive without using tune.
It certainly feels like that.
And you'd think you get everywhere, but
don't need those on because we're not. We don't need. We don't need any lights here.
Yeah,
There's
when in
no
doubt, start isolating.
nothing. Yeah, exactly. Let's just
Particle
kill everything
goo.
that's not in the scene.
Color mapper.
Well, that's all off. Yeah. Nothing hidden.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Maybe there's like just
I
bright
mean,
enough colors that just like the yellows just get bright enough that the emission of 5 is able to blow them out. Doesn't feel like that, but it could be an optical illusion.
yeah.
Hmm.
Hypnotic.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah.
Topology. Thanks for the
Whoop.
suggestion. Yeah, but I think that's as good a place to stop as any. So I just want to shout out all of Andy's stuff again. We're still on your screen if you want to pop open your up and coming YouTube channel, and I'll get those links back in the chat again.
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I just didn't close everything. Yeah. Do I have them? Do I have them? It's easy enough to find. Just let me. I've
Putting
not
the
got
links back
that.
in the chat. Okay, I want everybody who's still here in the chat, go ahead and make sure you subscribe to Andy's YouTube channel. Obviously, he's got tons of good insights and techniques here. You're going to want to learn more. And I'm also putting his Instagram and his Twitter in there. So follow on all these things if you are not already. Andy's one of the best
I would
people in
appreciate
the world,
that.
just straight across the board, but also at Cinema 4D. So
Oh wow. I mean,
we've
yeah,
got
thank you
almost an
everybody
extra
who's
10.
newly subscribed. Yeah, well, that's great. And I appreciate it. And so yeah, like these are, like I said at the top, these are some older things, but we'll be bringing out some new stuff
Or do you want to click on a
hopefully
nine?
soon.
You want to click on a 9-year-old tutorial? Do we
So
see a young Andy in there?
oh my word. The MoGraph. I don't even know if I was in front of the camera. Let me see. Workflow tip. Good job. It's muted. Whoa, look at the intro. What?
Oh, the old
Yeah, look at
light
that
layout.
interface.
Wow.
Oh my word. Yeah, I think I was
So
doing
you're
Python
already
then.
doing
There
Python
we
though.
go.
Amazing.
Okay, fun. Let's just see. Is there? Yeah, yeah. Well, that's jump in and see what the this one looked like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
This is the yeah, this was the oh my word. But yeah, it's a two-parter, guys, if you can stand it. So,
9-year-old two-parter. Amazing.
I mean, yeah, I'll take it for 9 years ago.
Excellent.
But yeah,
All
we'll
right.
get some fresh stuff coming up pretty soon. And the if I can find it, Maxon live
Oh, you
training
getting the
team.
link?
Trying to get that link. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I'll pop us
Maxon.
back up on screen. And if you want to put that link in the chats, yeah, Andy's going to be doing another live stream again real soon.
Yes. Oh, I wish I could find it.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of any other news. Let's see. I don't have any other specific guests lined up, so we'll have to find some people. It would be nice to have a guest like every other week or something like that.
So, yeah, here
Oh,
we
you get the
go.
link.
Boom. I mean, this was actually quite fun to do a search because if you look at the top one, that's what's coming up on the 20th of May. We're going to be talking about some more particle stuff. And this one below is my recent NAB presentation. And then if you go down, that was from 2020. That's from IBC 2022. That's from NAB 23. There's a few. So keep scrolling down and you'll find some more stuff out about me if you want to look there. But yeah, that's it. Cheers, Chris.
Yeah. Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
thanks again, Andy. And we'll have to have you as a guest again. Hopefully not too long from now. I can't believe I didn't have you as a guest like a while ago. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap this one up. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and hanging out and supporting and joining the chat and asking questions. We wouldn't be doing this unless people had questions for us. So, you're super important to this entire process. But that's going to wrap this up. Bye-bye, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, everybody.